You do. We have our guest ready to go? Yeah, nice enough to join us. He's been very busy from The Athletic, baseball writer specializing in the minor leagues and prospects. Keith Law, nice enough to join us. How are you today, Keith?
I'm good, thanks. How about you guys?
We're doing good. Thank you very much for your time. Obviously, we've got the A's here now, at least for the time being. So, we're interested in what they did at the deadline. Tell us, if you would, how good is the prospect that the A's got for Mason Miller, Leo DeVries? My understanding is you are, if I'm not wrong, you are not quite as high on him as some observers are. Is that right?
I get the sense that that's true. I talked just in the last week before the deadline, talked to multiple evaluators, to scouts and front office people. His name came up a lot because he was in trade rumors.
Yeah.
And because I had ranked him, because of where I'd ranked him, I just put out a prospect ranking like 8 days before the deadline. And so because of where I ranked him, every time I put one of those up, people reach out. Scouts are like, oh, I thought you were too high on this guy. You're too low on this guy. Every once in a blue moon, they actually say, hey, you were right on this guy. That's a nice thing. And the thing that was really interesting on DeVries was that people like the bat. He's super young. He has performed really well in A-ball for 2 years when he was the youngest player in his league. It's a good swing. He's showing some power already. I think that's going to get to be more. The biggest thing that has come out, though, is suddenly, this was not true a year ago, people are saying, whoa, we don't think he's a shortstop. They say he's athletic enough. He's physically able. He's got plenty of arm. But let's just say he's played it poorly this year. I want to be very careful about what I'm saying.
Sure.
Often I say with prospects, like, he can't stay at short because of physical or tool-related reasons. He's just not been good at shortstop. And so teams are downgrading him, saying that, we like this other shortstop prospect better. He's still really good, and I still think it's a tremendous return for a reliever. I like Mason Miller, but he could break at any time. He's already had a pretty bad injury history. So I think they were very smart to cash him in, and they got the best prospect to get traded.
Yeah, and I know I say you aren't as high on him, but I think you still had him 13th overall rather than 3rd. So that's extremely high. Yeah.
You are correct. Yep.
Keith, is it more or less, if I'm hearing you correctly, I'm sifting through some of the connotation that you're saying, is it the fact that shortstops are rated higher because of the difficulty of the position and being part of the battery on the field? Or is it the fact is we might be getting something with Leo where we don't really know what his position may be if it's not shortstop?
Those are both valid points, actually. I think it's more the former, that he's just that much more valuable if he is a shortstop. And if we had this conversation 6 months ago, I would have said, yeah, he's definitely a shortstop. I was still leaning that way into July, and then I started hearing whispers like, we don't think he's a shortstop anymore. Or a scout said he's played it. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but saying he's played it poorly. The shortstop himself is one of the most valuable positions on the field. It's the hardest to fill, that or catcher. And a good defensive shortstop is then worth even more. So that's an issue. And then the second one is, well, if he's got the physical ability, but he's just not playing it well, he's not making the plays he should be making, is he maybe not an infielder in the long run? I'm not saying that's the case. I actually don't think that's the case. I think you take a guy like that, you put him at second base, and I'd be shocked if he couldn't play second base. Absolutely shocked. But it's not great to see an 18-year-old kind of struggle at a position that certainly when he was signed at 16 and when he debuted last year and played about a third of the season or so in low A, everyone said, oh, he's a shortstop. He's definitely a shortstop. And now it's gone backwards so much so quickly. I think that's led to a lot of concern. And teams that have complicated models to value prospects, they've all downgraded him.
Keith Law with us, baseball writer for The Athletic, specializing in prospects in the minor league. Keith, minor leagues, I don't know if there's a way for you to evaluate this. This may come down to opinion, but, the whole situation with the A's is very strange. And, we don't blame the players at all. It's very difficult. I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, do you think that these unusual circumstances, playing half the games in a minor league park, could those circumstances and conditions in some ways inhibit the development of some of the A's players?
Oh, 100%. I think particularly the pitchers, because that plays as such a hitter's park. I think Jacob Wilson kind of, unfortunately, he's hurt now, but hit that sort of hot, first 6 weeks or so of the season, he was kind of hitting out of his mind. And obviously we know he could put the bat on the ball, but you could see also a lot of his, especially the power, was getting inflated by the ballpark. And that can hurt hitters too, because you can see a lot of guys in Colorado, they hit really well in Denver and then they can't hit anywhere else. And some guys, not all, certainly, some guys leave Colorado and just collapse. They can't hit because Colorado's an extreme because pitchers just don't move the same way there.
Right.
I think it can really hurt pitchers to get developed in an environment where it is a hitter's park, a fairly strong hitter's park, because they may change the way they pitch because they're so worried about giving up home runs. And that's generally not the way you want to develop pitchers. You want to say, no, you know what your best pitches are. You know what your approach is. You shouldn't be changing that just to try to suit a specific ballpark.
Interesting.
Joined by Keith Law of The Athletic. Real fast, Keith, because you have a wealth of knowledge around baseball. You've done it all, feels like, around the sport here. When we're talking about going back to the trade deadline that we saw last week, how many, because I always compare it to football and basketball, Keith, where we know the names, we kind of get to see the money that's dealt. We kind of get to see, guys who've already been played professionally versus, well, minors is professional, but in the big leagues. Do you see more names that are moved as far as MLB and prospects considered to most other sports? Do you guys kind of look at it and say, man, we see way more names, more prospects kind of move compared to like football and basketball?
Well, I don't know sort of different what the data is on those other sports. I can better compare it to, baseball's trade deadline has always been a thing. Even when I was a kid, it was much more of an event where you'd see bigger names changing teams. I don't know if we have more of those trades. I think we have more total players involved. And I can also say over the last 5 to 10 years or so, and I've been in this business 22 years, which is slightly horrifying to say out loud, right? We've seen fewer and fewer stars getting traded at the deadline. And there were no stars, I don't think, really traded at the deadline, unless you want to count Shane Bieber, who did win a Cy Young Award, but his circumstances are different because he still isn't back from Tommy John surgery. He's rehabbing. He was probably the biggest name, him or Mason Miller, to change teams. And so, to me, that doesn't compare to trade deadlines of 5, 10, 15 years ago. And that's because teams aren't willing to trade their better prospects. We saw a slew of prospects get traded. I wrote way more than I expected to, but I spent a lot of time sort of saying this guy might be an extra outfielder. This guy might be a fifth starter if everything works out. And quite a bit was, I just don't think this guy is very good, which I don't enjoy writing, but that's the job. And that's a lot of what got traded last week, at least in terms of the returns for the big leaguers, which to me is not a great trend. We spend so much time hyping up the trade deadline, and some of these deals, they'll help a club or two. I think Oakland did exceptionally well. Sorry, I'll call them Oakland until I die.
That's fine with us. Yeah, by all means. Fine. Yeah, we don't mind it.
I will never call them Vegas. The Athletics did extremely well. But overall, it kind of felt like a dud. I remember I was actually out, believe it or not, I was out at a board game convention on Thursday night, and I went to see some friends and play a game, and they're like, oh, how was it? And I said, it was kind of mid, actually. It felt very mid as trade deadlines go.
Wow. I want to ask you about the A's and how close they are, Keith. And I know, as you said, maybe the ballpark has something to do with this. They have right now 5 of their regulars with an OPS plus healthily over 100. The pitching has been a different story, but they're only going to be here, maybe 3 more years. We'll see where they go from here. Who knows? But how close might the A's be to being, at least a wild card contender? 2 years? 3? Do we even know yet?
They're not that bad. I feel like it's really popular to kind of kick the team. You want to kick the owner while he's down, fine. We can trash John Fisher all you want.
That's right.
I hate how he's handled this. I hate how MLB has let him get away with it.
Yep.
The team is not that bad, though. They're surprisingly watchable. Mm-hmm. They've got some really interesting players. Nick Kurtz is everything I hoped he would be. I never saw this version of him in college. I saw him multiple times at Wake Forest as an underclassman and in his draft year, and I never saw more than a flash of this. This is what everybody thought he'd be when he was like a freshman, and he's doing it, which is super exciting. And Jacob Wilson, probably going to be better than I thought he was. They've got a couple of interesting guys percolating through this system who are at least contributors now. They got some pitching depth. JP Sears has been fine, but he's not a third or second number 2 starter. And they got some pitching depth back for him. I like what they're doing. They're going to have to do more of it. I think just a little bit more of that acquisition, just trying to get some bulk, and then hopefully keep hitting on some of these high draft picks. I think they are very much headed in the right direction. So to your question, could they be wild card contenders in, I think, 2 years? I wouldn't say more than that. It depends on what else they do, but I definitely think they could hit that deadline.
Wow.
Nice.
Keith, as much as I'm an A's fan, I despise the Giants, but we got to show them some love around the area.
I figured that was coming.
Right. One of the things that I believe Giants fans have had an issue, of course, on the Farhan committee, was not homegrowing their own prospects. For the Giants fans who are listening, and we know Buster taking over for the Giants, what's their future look like right now as far as their minor leagues?
Yeah, it's kind of mixed. I mean, obviously, we all know, I'm sure anybody who's listening, if you follow the minors at all, you know who Bryce Eldridge is. I do think he's got a chance to be a superstar. I think.
And by the way, Keith, excuse me, but they play here too. They share the field, the River Cats.
River Cats.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, yes, you better know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right. It's not that I didn't know that was the affiliate, but I'm like, well, they can't play there anymore. That just doesn't make sense. But of course, in Rob Manfred world, of course it makes sense.
Yes.
So, I do, and I should back into this a little bit by saying I don't think the Giants had a great deadline. I thought they could have done better for some of what they were trading. I expected, especially for Joe Ball, I thought they gave him up for a very light package. It was quantity, definitely quantity over quality in that deal. I do think beyond Bryce Eldridge, it's not a bad system, but a thinner system than it should be. I think obviously trading for Devers did put a dent in the system. They've given up a draft pick here or there. They've also had some kind of higher profile misses in the draft and in international. Every team has some of those. The year they took Reggie Crawford first was just such a lottery ticket pick in the first round. That poor kid's been hurt more than he's been healthy in his pro career. It's hard to miss on multiple high picks like that or give them away in the case of Tibbs. And I don't know what James Tibbs is going to be, but he's on his third organization of the year already. He's not the Giants' problem anymore. So I do think their system has thinned out a bit. I was glad to see them enter sell mode rather than try to make a long shot bid for the playoffs and maybe try to restock. I wish they had gotten a little bit more in return in some of those deals.
Well, Keith, we appreciate your time very much and your insight. Before we let you go, I just want to see your opinion on this. I don't know how much Little League World Series you're watching. This shortstop in Louisiana, I think he's going to have to move to third base going forward. What do you think?
That's a little young for me. I gotta tell you.
Keith,
I gotta be 16 and professional before I.
Okay.
Man.
All right.
Keith,
Fair enough.
Whitey lied to you because I do have one more question. We love talking about baseball here on our show. So when we have the likes of a Keith Law, we have to ask him a question. Who is, if there is such a thing, a can't miss prospect right now in your eyes?
I don't think we've got one in the minors.
Wow.
I think and we're all, a lot of people disagree on who that is. The guy I have number one, I'll just give you two names real quick. Kevin McGonigal is the guy I have number one. He's second baseman, shortstop. He plays shortstop now. He's a guy I think will move to second base. He's the best pure hitter in the minors. I joked with the Tigers guys when he was in high A hitting 390. When are you going to promote Rogers Hornsby to double A? Because selfishly, their double A club comes to play near me so I could go see him. And I did. And he can really hit, and it's some power, and he's going to be good at second base, exceptional strike zone discipline. But sometimes those guys, they tap out. Major league pitching is way different than AAA or AA. And some of those sort of can't miss bats haven't hit as well as we think. Whereas the other end of the spectrum, I think Major League Baseball put Connor Griffin with the Pirates as their number one prospect. He's got all the tools. It is elite run, elite power, elite arm. He probably is a shortstop. He's got some questions about how much he's going to hit. And it's really mechanical. It's more that not about production, what he's done on the field, but there's some stuff about that swing that's unusual, at least, and might be an obstacle. He might not hit. Right? There's a lot of these guys going to come down to, we're not really sure if they're going to hit. It's been a while since there was a guy in the minors where I thought absolute can't miss superstar. I mean, might be going back to like the Trout, Harper, Machado days. All three of whom I was like, those guys are going to be stars, and they were.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Keith Law. We appreciate it very much, Keith. You're ever out here for a game? Look us up. We'll make a day of it. We appreciate it.
We'll do. Last time I was in Sacramento was to see a guy named Matt Manning. So it's been a minute.
Okay.
When he was in high school out there.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Saw him against a very unfortunate team that I don't think got the ball out of the infield that day.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Keith.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We'll talk to you soon. Yeah, Keith. There it is. Keith Law says within a couple of years, no more than 2 years, the Athletics of West Sacramento could be contending for something, Jay. 2 years, he says.
I like that.
That's before some Kings fans say we can even start to evaluate Scott Perry.
I know.